Greetings, this is from the Hilt, and today we're going to talk about this bad boy right here, Lenharrow Fantasy Adventures. What you'll find familiar about Lenharrow Fantasy Adventures is, first and foremost, it's a tabletop role-playing game set in a fantasy setting, as the name implies. Well, we roll dice to determine outcomes of combat and other situations, just like most other RPGs. But what makes it different? Well, for starters, we don't use levels at all. It's, for the most part, a skills-based system and a milestone system. We kind of use a combination of both. But to get into that, we need to talk a little bit about what Lenharrow is and where it came from. Lenharrow is the evolution of my campaign worlds that I put together starting probably in the late 80s, early 90s. But what is Lenharrow didn't come together until the late 90s when I was running a campaign that I called Carnage with a K. And then it happened. My favorite game just kind of went away. I tried the new system, and it didn't work for me. It's not that I think it's a bad system. It just didn't work for me. I had books and campaign information that I've done, and after creating the Carnage system, my wife and I took a look at everything we were doing, and we decided to go with the Carnage system as our main system and just do our own homebrew game, and that worked. Lenharrow is the result of everything we love about games in one book. We took what we liked, we threw out what we didn't like. Even some of the stuff from the new system works. So we used that. We took what we, like as I said, what we liked, and we turned that into a working game system now. Also, what makes Lenharrow different is the fact that we don't use classes. It's basically the same thing we use for lifestyles. Basically, a lifestyle is who your character is, but as to what they are, that would be their race. We didn't slack on race at all. We have quite a few selections. We incorporated animate into our game system, and something called a Garn, which is a creation of mine that I made up on the spot one day because I was challenged by one of my players to make something that was truly unique. So I hope when I go over this that things will be made more clear. And let's get right into it. This is the cover that my wife, the Tiger, did. You're going to notice some things like on the sidebar it says Christopher Hilt and Shannon Watches. Shannon Watches is the Tiger. We had problems with Amazon. They didn't really like just the Tiger, but she had to create an author page with her real name, so we did that. And so I go by Christopher Logan Hilt, and so it's Logan and Tiger. That's always been our monikers for running fantasy adventures. This first section is the light edition for the player's guide. The player's guide is set up very simply. In the first chapter is all the stuff you need to know how to make a character and how to play it in a game. We have in-game mechanics. We cover character creation and combat. Combat is relatively simple. It's mainly the preview of what we call the referee, or game master, or storyteller. what you'll notice first is that we go over how to use the dice, which most games don't. We usually have a big page about all the abbreviations we use in this book. Then we go through the steps of character creation. I'm going to actually have a video about specifically making characters, but there's the light edition has a kind of bare bones of what we actually can do with Lenharrow. So our character creation video is going to be kind of a review of the accessory, the character creation companion, and that book is specifically dedicated to creating characters, and so we'll really go over it then. But I'll give you the gist of it here. You get your basic character information, which is your name, what campaign you're in, and so forth. Then you select a race, and in the light edition, we just have your 10 standard races. That in this game system we have animen, arachnoids, drolls, which are dragonmen. Arachnoids, I should go back a little bit. Arachnoids are spiderians, they're spider people, and scorpions, which are scorpion people. And you have your standard fantasy races: dwarves, elves, humans, halflings. We also have gnomes. We have the Garm that I mentioned before, and giantines, which are tiny giantines. Tiny giants, I should say. And we go through quickly on what you need to make a character, your starting age, and height, and weight, and the ability score adjustments. And like most other games, we have ability scores, but before that, you would want to pick out a lifestyle, and we have the 10 basic lifestyles: adventurer, bounty hunter, a common laborer, nobleman, a religious man, a savage, a scholar, a soldier, and tradesman. Now, we'll go into a little bit of what those are in a bit. Then you pick a personality, and in Lenharrow, we don't do like strict alignments or anything of that nature. We just, whether you're good, neutral, or evil, and that's basically how most people are. So we just go with that and let people roleplay as they see fit. We have a system of generated ability scores, just like most games. And like most games, we have 6 basic ability scores, but what makes Lenharrow way different is the fact that we add them all together to record what is known as your power score, which is the sum of all your other ability scores together, which determines how many hit points you start with, how many talents you start with, and it basically it gives you all the things you need to start your character off. We have, like I said, 6 standard ability scores: agility, charm, insight, intellect, might, and vitality. And then, like I said, we had your power score, which determines, like I said, your starting hit points, how many hit points you get per increase, and we'll get into that a bit later. Your healing rate, when you rest, how many hit points you get back. Your base attack rating, or AR. Your faith. What faith points are is basically a little bit of extra thing we added to the game. Like I said, everything in the game system is completely optional, and referees are free to use or not use whatever they like. I like to use faith points because it gives players a little extra edge. And what it is each faith point, it can modify a die roll by 1. It works out very well once you get the hang of it. Your talents are not necessarily skills, but things that you know how to do and you're good at. And so we have a difference between talents and skills. And when you know how to use a weapon, you're talented with it. So that falls into that category as well. And then how much it costs to purchase an additional talent slot. And then we have our basic chart on what you get for each ability score. And our ability scores run mostly from 1 to 18, like a lot of other game systems. It can go above that. The light edition cuts off pretty much at 20, but there are a few races that can have 21 might. But we try to keep it within that range. The power score ranges from 6 to 109. The sweet spot is 85 to 100, but which is what most characters will have. And that's what we generally like to shoot for when we're rolling up characters. And then you have your hit degree, which is basically the sum of your life force, and determines what kind of character you are, whether you are a basic character, an intermediate character, or advanced. And then your hit points. And hit points, we divide those by 8 to create a hit degree. So 1 to 8 hit points is 1 hit degree. 7 to 16, or 9 to 16, I'm sorry, is 2 hit degree, and so on. We can get into that a bit later too. Resistance rolls are your chance to avoid certain things, like when a spell is cast on you, whether it affects you, doesn't affect you, or you take some or all of the damage. A lot of game systems use similar things. We broke it down into categories of physical, mental, magical, and spiritual. And we go over how to make a resistance roll. Then you determine your starting character generation points, or CGPs. CGPs are what you'll earn throughout the game. Instead of leveling up, you'll get your CGPs and spend them on the skills that you want. Each character starts with a certain amount based on their power score, their ratio, their race, their lifestyle, and that would determine their starting CGPs. Now, right here we have the chart that will give you your bonus racial points, or BRPs. Then we have the bonus lifestyle points, or BLPs. Burps and blips is what we always used to call them. Then we go into skills and talents, and how to purchase them, and selecting talents with your talent slots. We have your basic universal skills that all lifestyles have access to. Then we have our arcane skills, which is your magical abilities for spell casting, like a wizard. This would be your arcane caster. We have the combat skills and guild skills. Guild skills are like your chance to climb walls, detect traps, open locks, pick pockets, things of that nature. And also in that category are trade skills, such as carpentry and blacksmithing, metalworking, and things of that nature, which fall under mostly under the lifestyle of the tradesman, but other lifestyles can purchase. You can purchase whatever you like, for the most part. Lifestyles have a skills alignment, but that doesn't mean you can't buy things from other skill categories. It just costs more. Then we have the divine skills. Now, divine skills are basically when you have a deity and you are a dedicated priest or religious man, which is the lifestyle is called religious man mostly, but again, it's a skill category, and other lifestyles have access to it. Just some lifestyles have better access to it than others. We have the basic types of spells, and then we have what we call divine granted powers. This would be things that divine servants can just do. Then we have the talents list, and we've broken talents into 3 categories: judgment, physical, and lore. And when you use a talent, you make an ability score check. You roll a 20-sided die, and if you roll your ability or less based on your modifier, and this is applied to the ability score and not the die roll. So if you have, say, a 12 insight and you want to make a conspiracy check, you would go to your insight, and you have a 0 modifier when you take it with the 2 slots. and so you'd have to roll a 12 or less. Let's say if you had clarity of thinking, you would have to roll that, and you have a 12 minus 4, so it would be 8 or less. We try to keep things simple. That is the difference between skills and talents. Skills just work. Talents you have to make a check for. Then to make a character, we determine starting funds. Our money conversion we keep it pretty simple. We have purchasing and determining gear and defensive rating. So we have our weapons chart here for the basic light edition. The notes on how all that works. Then we have armor, type, and defenses chart. And this gives you your bonus to what we like to call a defensive rating. We don't have just a single roll based on the armor. It's overall defensive rating is what your character has based on what they're wearing, what their skills are, and how agile they are. So from your agility, you may have a bonus or a penalty, or not. There's on the average ability scores of 9 to 12, there are no bonuses or penalties. And then a little brief description on what these things are. We have our gear list. We don't go in descriptions for a lot of this stuff because we feel that a referee should be able to determine in their world what everything is, their campaign world. Then we have standard packs. This came about way early on while we were gaming, where we had a standard generic pack or equipment pack. But we went a little further with Lenharrow, and we designed a pack for each of the lifestyles. So we have like an adventurous pack, and in this pack, for the purchase price, we have, like I said, we have the lifestyle packs, and each one has a certain cost. We have the one for each, like I said, for each lifestyle: the bounty hunter, the common laborer, the tradesman, the nobleman, the religious man, the savage. Savages have a pouch. Scholars have a knapsack, but everybody else has a pack. A survivalist pack and a soldier's pack. You'll notice that a survivalist comes with quite a few more things. Well, that's because they live off the land and they need a few other things to survive. Hence the name. Then we go over the final details of a character, and this would include spells for spellcasters, whether you have arcane or divine spells. Our magic combat system uses arcane and divine spell slots. We have a casting level, and each casting level has a set amount of slots. The light edition goes up to level 7. Actually, for players, we have descriptions of how these charts work. But for the players, we actually only go up to 3rd rank. Now, there's a difference between level and rank. The level is basically every 3 levels equals 1 rank, and rank is the power of the spell, and level is the ability of the caster to make effects. Like certain things will have the rank of a spell, like I said, that determines the power. So if it's a more powerful spell, it has a higher rank. But level determines things like an elemental blast will do a d6 damage per level, whereas certain other things will do, like an elemental arrow does a certain amount of damage per rank, and then +1 per turn per rank. So there's certain spells do certain things, and that's the same with any game system. But with Lenharrow, we don't have a list by list spell alphabetically or level or whatever you want to call it description of each spell. The reason for that being is referees are going to decide how their own magic system works. We just have a basic idea in the Lenharrow Light Edition of how spells work. So we provided these charts based on each field for arcane casters or each order for divine casters. Now, we have like a simple name of a spell, what rank it is, how the first strike modifiers is the number that determines how fast a spellcaster casts a spell. Like first rank spells are really quick, and then in most cases the first strike modifier is equal to the rank, but that is not always the case. Like Elemental Grasp is only 1, but it's a second rank spell because it's just quicker and easier to use. Certain things we determined just didn't need to be put into the book or the game system. We leave most of that kind of stuff up to the game master because every game is going to be different, and every game master runs their game the way they want to run it. So, as I said, we have just a few charts to give players an idea of how their spells work.